Finally, the one night my favorite show's on and I take it off. It's back after being on this long hiatus. Brand new season. Can't wait. Jesus Christ. Hello?
Hello, Batsy.
What do you want?
Well, just...
My favorite show's on now. Leave me alone.
Oh.
I don't want to talk to you right now. Leave me alone.
Fine.
It's my night off.
Goodbye.
That's right. What the fuck? Hello?
Hello, Batman. I've got a...
No!
What?
Leave me alone.
I've got hostages.
God. Jesus Christ.
Riddle me this...
Fuck off, Riddler. Not tonight.
Huh?
We are back on MEAD, kids and ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls of all ages and in between. How's everybody doing tonight? I'm Tom Connors. With me, as always, is Mike, the Mexican Iron Man, the producer of Steel.
Yes, now also known as Rabbit Chicken Steel Lightning.
And also with me is another partner in crime, Mr. Jesse Miller, with the kick-ass Jaws shirt on. How you doing?
Yeah, I thought it was funny because in the chat it says dun 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 dun.
I think he's doing the da 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 dun dun da 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 da, but it works. And also with us, of course, is the man who has a cure for all your entertainment needs, the script doctor himself. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me tonight.
Brilliant. Glad to have you here. And also joining us tonight is the one, the only Valiant Renegade. How's the silky voice doing?
It's doing fine, Tom.
Awesome. So let's get into the festivities here. We've got quite a few people in the chat already. Over 100 of you hanging in there. Hit that like button. We got Lindsay in here with a wrench. Thank you so much for being here. Eric Madsen. Nikki D is here. Thank you for also being a member, Nikki D. And Stephen Otten is a member as well. And thank you for being here. Cosmic Squirrel is here. Cyber Soldier and Troy Pacelli are also here. Speaking of members. And Troy, I did get your donation. Thank you so much for that. I just wanted to let you know I did get that and I appreciate it. So I'm glad I saw you here so I can tell you that. KR Nut is here. Sounder Hammerslag is here as well. Sailor Sonic's here. My Fractured Butthole is here. Imagine that, ladies and gentlemen. The Cheese Factor's here as well as Silver Shroud. Too Much 77. Hannibal A. Morales Sanchez is here. And so many more. Parrot Head is also here. Welcome, welcome. Duck Nation. We have Chef Nation. Speaking of nations. How you doing, Chef? We also have six. Yes, 20 minutes late. I ran behind. It's my fault. 110%. I just drove an hour nonstop to get here, but I'm here and we're live. We got Snowed Up in the chat as well. And speaking of Stephen Otten, he sends in a $5 super chat to say, hail Tom, Mike, Jesse, Script, Valiant Wrenches, and chat.
Hey-o.
So be sure to say hello to Stephen in the chat. And thank you so much. We also have Slithering Peanut, Jack of All Casuals. Joachim Stark is here. Lovely to see our regulars, Mike Morgan King, who is also a member, and Kitty Bear is too. And, of course, Mr. Dragon and Joker Voice are here as well. So welcome, Arasaka, and so many more. Thank you for being here. Not trying to leave anybody out, but we have a show to do. And I don't want to waste anybody's time. And we all know it's my fault. Yes, 6. And I love your little pumpkins there. They're very festivus.
Yes, they are.
For Halloween. So let's see what's going on. Mike, my producer man, the box office. What's going on?
You want to start with that or the strike? I thought we were going to do the strike first.
You want to start with the strike?
Yeah.
Strike 1.
Well, I've got the article in the private chat. Can you see it?
No, he can't.
No, it's probably too soon for me.
All right, hold on. Copy.
Let me bring it up. So yeah, there's a little bit of strike news going on here. Who's been on top of this business besides Script Doctor?
This is
I mean,
the first
I'm
time hearing
following
about it, Tom.
briefly, but I can't say I'm on top of it. I mean, I know they, as expected, they reached an impasse. They voted to strike, and
Well, I
then
can go ahead and jump into it if you want.
shortly after that, they decided to, okay, let's go back to negotiations.
So, says negotiators for the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees and the studios returned to the bargaining table on Tuesday in hopes of averting a TV and film production strike, but no deal was immediately in sight. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, which represents the studios, presented its latest proposal. A union spokesperson said the offer was being reviewed, but one union official said that the offer was little different in substance from the employer group's previous proposal and that no real progress had been made. It's a big nothing burger, this union official said. Other union officials have been optimistic that a resounding strike authorization vote with almost 99% voting in favor of a strike would lead to enough concessions to reach a deal within the next few days. More than 52,000 members voted to authorize a nationwide strike, which would be the first in the union's 128-year history. The turnout was extraordinarily high. 90% turnout of the 52,000 members showed up. And, it just jumped on me. And the membership is fully engaged on the fight for a new 3-year contract. The basic agreement and the area standards agreement, which cover about 60,000 below the line workers coast to coast, we're going to let Script explain what that term means, expired on September 10th. The unions are seeking greater rest periods, longer turnaround times between shifts. Crews have also focused on the issue of Fraturdays, late Friday shifts that end on Saturday morning. Union negotiators are seeking a minimum 54-hour weekend turnaround, which has been provided in other contracts. Wow.
Yeah. No, I heard like 98% of them voted to strike. I think you may have said that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and 90%. Think about this. This is 52,000 members around the country. 90% showed up, and of those that showed up, what did they say? 90.
It's beyond the country. Majority of IATSE employees work up in Canada, actually.
Oh my God, you're right.
It covers all of North America, right?
Yeah, this is all. I apologize.
Okay.
This is all of North America.
Yeah, because usually where we would go get a lot of our shooting news from would be IATSE.
Yeah.
So, but before we get much deeper into this, I did have a couple of super chats before the one we got from Stephen Otten. My fractured butthole sent me a pooper sticker. How dare you? How dare you, sir? No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much for that. Then Liquid Metal Rob says, "Hey guys, one team I want to see in the MCU is All Winners Squad. The danger is if you lose anything, even a game of Counter-Strike, they get kicked out. So that's why they cheat constantly." There you go, Script Doctor. That's a good idea. Talk to Liquid Metal about that one. That sounds like a funny idea. But no, we're not surprised by this, I don't think. But Script Doctor, give us a bit of a broad kind of overlay of what IATSE is and what this means. I know you don't know everything about this, but a lot of it's happening so quickly. But you did talk a little bit about it the other day, and just kind of give us a breakdown.
Well, I've worked for these with these guys before. So yeah, they're your run of the mill crew. They are your gappers, your grips, your key grips, your best boys. These are the people that make the production go. You cannot shoot a movie without members that know how to do various things, such as like assembling a camera or assembling camera track or setting up with lighting with your cinematographer and a number of other aspects, not to get too specific. And these guys, it's like a blue collar job in comparison. It's not millions of dollars per episode or per film production for these guys. They make a decent wage for what they do, and they work all the time. And yeah, basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to negotiate for a bit more reasonable production hours. So this article mentions the Fraturdays. Now Fraturdays are crazy. It usually starts at 9 p.m. on a Friday, and then it ends just before noon on a Saturday. And not a whole lot of crew members like this. Usually the newer guys don't mind because they want the work, but the experienced people like their weekends off, or at least like their 2 days off back to back. And one of the big stipulations that we see from this article is that they want a reasonable weekend time, weekend break, which is 54 hours. That's your Friday, that's your Saturday or Sunday plus 3 hours on Friday or 6 hours extra on Friday, so that you end at 6 p.m. Friday, and then you got your weekend and you start bright and early 6 a.m. Monday. Which, I mean, does that sound unreasonable to anyone listening or in the chat here?
It sounds like it's going to be impossible to get like what they need to get done. But as far as normal scheduling go, yeah, that's typical. But that's not the way that works sometimes.
In shock. I thought something like this, I thought was figured out decades ago. I didn't know these guys work like this.
Well, it changes from production to production, because here's the other part too. Rarely do you have, especially on the TV side of things, directors come and go kind of, they're not stable. They're guest spots, so to speak, on the productions. So in some cases, if you have a director that's directing an episode and they're not very organized, you end up going over in overtime or extra work hours or bad scheduling. If you have a really good director that's done television for many years and they plan their shoot prior, you can be under budget and on time. And that is kind of unfortunately few and far between recently, especially over the last 10 years or so, and even more so with the pandemic conditions, because not a whole lot of directors are showing up on set, or at least they've taken other jobs, so they're not doing all the television work that's there. They're doing stuff that's smaller, like music videos and TV spots, and oddly enough, infomercials those are still a thing. So yeah, there's this whole weird aspect of this portion of the crew that they're kind of getting wrung out to dry at this moment, and I don't agree with how they've been treated in this time. They make the productions work, and it's basically, in order for them to achieve what they want, it really just comes down to your showrunners, your producers, your directors putting in the extra effort to make sure that they plan their days accordingly, so that their crew can, do their job and leave without having to worry about any overtime or any type of exhaustion or weird scheduling.
How come they switch directors so much? Why don't they just get like 3 for a season or something? Is it purely scheduling?
No, it's kind of just the way it's always really been. Directors, like television directors, are usually supposed to be starting out, or at least getting their feet wet with regards to directing in some regards, just like with music videos. And so they move from show to show, job to job, to try and build up their experience, and that came to be a habit. Rarely do you get shows that there's one director for the entire series. So
usually the showrunner kind of handles the
showrunner takes over the show and operates everything, and then they bring in guest directors to worry about the episodes. They just focus mostly on performances and certain cinematography tricks, but it's really up to the showrunner. Unless, of course, there's the famous Cheers. Jim Burrows directed almost 99% of those episodes. He was there for all of it, pretty much.
Which is a rarity, like you said.
Which is very rare, yeah. But, I mean, you could actually see how consistent every episode of Cheers is and how it's shot, how it's performed.
One of the most consistent comedies on television, period.
Yeah, for 11 years.
I have a question for you, Script, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, so, business-wise, I got a pretty good head, but I'm very much a layman on how these contracts work with these union guys. I understand what they do, because, like, I know for the people in the audience out there, I mean, I've always loved photography. I do some small stuff, commercial video work. I mean, I understand when you say having to set up a camera track, having to set up lighting, having to put a camera together and all this. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I know the amount of time that I spend just as a solo guy setting up gear and setting up a shoot. I might spend more time setting it up than actually shooting. And then, of course, when you factor in tearing it down. What I'm curious about is when they build these contracts with these, with these guys, and like you said, they bring in the gaffers, the grips, the best boys, they bring in all these guys to basically build the infrastructure that allows for a shoot to happen. And you're talking about these inexperienced directors that are disorganized. Is it a matter of the studio putting the pressure on the director and or the showrunner? It has to be finished by a certain time, and if the person's disorganized, they basically have carte blanche to keep the crew there for ridiculous hours? Or is there stipulations in the contract to where they have to get paid X amount of overtime, or is it a flat rate for the production itself that the company gets paid regardless of if it takes 20 hours or 40 hours, kind of like if you pay a plumber to come do a job at the house? Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because I'm really interested to learn on how that kind of usually works.
Well, it's so I don't know of any flat rate terminology used for IATSE. My understanding is that it's always been hourly, pretty much. Like it's negotiated on hourly and job class. So that's how I've always seen it. Even when it goes to like day players and actors, and other crew members, so like craft services, makeup artists, etc., etc. Those are usually, they get a contract, but it's like an overall fee, but it's separated by hour, and then of course there's also overtime, basically, for not making your day. And so for half-hour shoots, if it's going to be a single camera half-hour episode, I think that's a 5-day shoot by default, and if it's an hour-long single camera or multi-camera shoot, it's 8 days. And it's not 8 days straight. It's usually like 5 days on, 2 days off, 1 day to your finals, and then you're off, and then you a day off, and then you're back on again for another 5 days. And it's jumbled around the month based on the production schedule. So it's usually goes by show by show. But yeah, I do not know any things where you're paid a flat rate regardless of overtime or not. I think overtime is always factored in.
I would hope so. I mean, considering what they do. And I guess that's my big question. What I'm trying to get to is the overtime. The whole point of this story is, I guess, and as a follow-up question, has there never been a stipulation in a contract to where, look, we're only going to be there for 50, 60 hours a week for this. You can't go beyond that, because it seems like obviously this is the crux of this, is they're driving these guys into the ground with these ridiculous hours, and they don't seem to have any way to, say, hey, look, no, we're not, we got to shut it down. We're going home. We've been here 16 hours today. We're going to die driving home because we're going to be falling asleep behind the wheel. I know that's kind of been a big thing for these guys. Has there not been anything up to this point to where they're just kind of at the mercy of the director of the show? Is that what it is?
Well, my experience when I first started out, we were always at the mercy of IATSE, because if their day was, if they said, well, we can't keep going anymore, you have to make your day at this time, that's what you did. You made your day, and you'd get told by the studio, like, this is the stipulation. These are the hours you work. There's other stuff where they've done, as mentioned, like shift changes. So they'll have a crew that operates on a three shift schedule. So it's like 24 hours, 3 8-hour shifts. And you'll have a couple of like key units that work like 10 hours for the first part of the first 2 shifts, and then they come back for the final back 10. So they've got about 4 hours in between. Sometimes they split up by like 6 4 by 6s. And it's basically just shift rotations. So the director is there until they get what they need. The actors are there until they get what they need, and then the crew rotates. But because they're an organized crew and they're well in sync, you shouldn't be experiencing much issues with regards to the changing of the crew. Those are very rare cases. I only know those types of situations during pilot season, where we do what's called like red light blocking. Where if you are shooting a pilot and you think you're running behind and you don't think you're going to be able to make it complete your shooting because someone's going to come in and shut you down, you flip on the red light and you just go until you're done everything. Because when the red light's on, no outside party's going to enter in the studio, because they don't want to risk blowing a take. And that only usually happens for pilots. It shouldn't be happening for regular episodes. We have insurance days for that. So if you don't make your day, for whatever reason, and you still need to do pickups and whatnot, or a rewrite, you claim an insurance day, and then everybody comes in, they're paid based on that insurance day. However, it looks really bad on whoever the showrunner is or the director who called for that day. So IATSE has been in a very good position for a very long time. Again, this is the first time in 128 years they have had to do this type of negotiation and threaten for a strike. Yeah. So the studios have been doing well to keep them, at least generationally happy. This seems to be the change of the instance, and I think it also factors into the fact that because of the new streaming model, this is why they're working so hard, and that's why they want to get some either more pay and also some more time off.
Right. Well, and outside of like certain television productions and stuff like that, this is the first time I've ever heard of like shifts going on like the crew. So is that something that's normal or is that abnormal? Because I would say, as far as I know, usually
10 hours on, 4 hours off, 10 hours on is quite abnormal.
Well, not just that, but my point is like normally when you have a set crew, you have just your basic crew, and they're there. And like, here's the thing: is like, and this kind of goes with fuck Google 2's nice name, $5 super chat. It's not just grips, it's and best boys, it's makeup artists, set directors, wardrobe, even cartoon animators. Directors are now less skilled and at schedule.
Yes.
Now, the last part you agree with, obviously, but my point is this. Is most of these people that are mentioned here are the people I'm talking about. They're always the people that, as far as I knew, were always the first ones there and the last ones to leave.
Yeah.
Right. And they're
Pretty
the guys.
much. Well, the director's supposed to be the first and last.
Well,
to leave,
true,
yes.
but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
and they're the least paid outside of the director. Like, these are the people that are there that are doing they're there before all the actors are. The makeup people are there to make sure all that shit's ready. The set decorators and all that kind of stuff.
Even
all there
stand-ins.
long before. Yeah. So and they're there usually long after a lot of times too, is my point. So this is the first time I've ever really heard of like shift changes outside of like I said, certain television productions where it is like a longer schedule and they're trying to cram more in and shooting multiple episodes at once and shit like that. Like usually on a movie shooting stuff, as far as I know, is you have your crew and you're just there. Like there's no shift changes. This is the first time I've ever heard of that.
No, there are some shift changes. There's certain, like sometimes they'll schedule in advance a couple of 18-hour days, and then they'll have one person that's there for the whole 18 hours, and then they'll have teams that they organize throughout that day. So for instance, sometimes you'll have someone like legendary makeup artist V. Neal. She'll be there for maybe most of the day, but she's got several different makeup artists that are working, quarter of the day or half the day that come in and do touch-ups or various prosthetic applications and then so forth, and they rotate out so that they don't get exhausted and that their skill level is maintained throughout the production. That's some instances that I know. When it comes to like cinematography or camera crew, those guys, as far as I know, they stay the whole day.
That's what I mean. Like a lot of the crews normally are there all the time. Like I'm sure you have multiples of certain people, but like otherwise, I mean, because a lot of movie making in television I know is hurry up and wait. I get
pretty
that.
much, yeah. And we're actually waiting for the crew in most cases because we have to make sure everything is just right before we can start rolling camera.
Yeah, and it's a tedious thing. I get it, and I totally understand where these guys are coming from, and the fact that this took so long to get to this point and everything like that. I think it's going to be an interesting few weeks here, a couple days at least, to see how this turns out. But again, I guess I think the point that needs to be made is these are not the people who make a lot of the big decisions, right? Like these are the people that we should be rooting for, because these are the guys who, it doesn't matter if the movie's good or not because they have no say in it. They're just there doing their job.
They're there to make it the best that it possibly can be. And on top of that, too, this all comes down to the weird new scheduling that they've been doing to meet streaming demands, to content creation demands. So, yeah, that's my understanding is why they're raising this now, because prior to the new streaming model that these studios have been incorporating for their shows, they were pretty content. They had some little issues here and there, but those were quickly resolved because, again, studios love making these guys happy because they make their movies made. Like without them, the movies can't be made.
Yeah, and the other side of it, they're not like I just said, they're not responsible for how good or bad something turns out as far as like quality wise as the story and all that kind of stuff. They're just there. They're basically day workers in some ways.
They are,
so, like,
and also they do voice their opinions if something sucks or not. Like
I'm sure they do, but my
working on Suicide Squad,
it doesn't
I
matter
talked
if
to
they
those
work.
guys.
Yeah, my point is this though. There you go. Like it doesn't matter if they worked on Suicide Squad or not, and the movie flopped. That's not their problem. Their problem is just to be there to do their job, and they'll move on to the next job. And that's why you're saying like the studios need these guys. And you're right. They're important because they're the cogs that keep everything going, and they are underappreciated, and they are the people that don't get the spotlight.
Yeah, so, they're the reasons why the end credits are so long because they're all there.
Besides those digital animators over in China, but
ignoring them. North Korea, very important too, because like you're working that long, it is hard to be creative after a certain point. It's not like you're having these guys working on an assembly line just turning nuts onto a piece as it goes by. Like Charlie Chaplin, you have to make something that actually looks artistic and good, and that's hard when you're fried. You want sleep instead of coffee.
Well, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong too if you're certain,
Oh God, yeah. Workplace accidents, hit with a nail gun, for Christ's sake.
Well, there's all kinds of things. Yeah, definitely.
Things. The ladder work that has to be involved in half of these sets has got to be terribly dangerous.
Got us to win. sends in $5. Sorry, says can't stay today. Sorry, I was trying to get to this as soon as possible. Gotta swim. Hope you're still here to hear this, but if not, apologize. It's my nephew's birthday and Karen Allen's 70th birthday. Just wanted to say, hey, all. Well, hello, Goddess Woman. Is she really 70 already?
I didn't think she was 70 yet. I
didn't
thought she
think
was
so.
maybe 62, 63.
Wow. So, any of you guys have anything more to say about the IATSE business before we move into the box office stuff?
I hope they get what they need to keep things working. They got my
like
support.
Stick says, I agree with her. It's like working in healthcare. It kind of is in a way. I mean, it's not like, as life or death in that respect, but it can be in some situations.
No, producers will make it feel like it's life and death.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. But
it'll be life and death for you if you get canned.
Well, I mean, not only that, if you're somebody who's doing lights and certain other things, it's important to make sure that shit don't fall down and hit somebody in the fucking head.
Yeah, actually, the scrutiny that's used for training for IATSE members is ridiculous. I wish it was adopted through other areas of the film industry, because these people, they don't screw up. And if there is an accident, it rarely have I ever heard of it being the result of incompetence. It's usually like a freak thing, in that nature. So they have a good track record.
The script. How come with this whole thing, like the directors, they seem to be at fault here, and they drag it out if they're not familiar with it or they didn't plan right or whatever? How come the studio doesn't have like a skeleton for their time frame or their scheduling? Like, this has to be done by this part of the week. This has to be done by that part of the week. Like,
they do
X amount of the script, at least they do.
Yeah.
So why?
They plan. Listen, they budget.
People don't do their homework beforehand, or
some don't. Some don't. There's some directors that the most they'll do is a shot list, and they'll do a couple conversations with costume and cinematographer and showrunner and whatnot. But yeah, it just varies from director to show how well it's run and what way it goes.
So are they picking out their shots on the fly based on what looks good?
No, they get the script maybe a month beforehand, and then they start picking up what type of shots they want to do. And then they discuss that with the cinematographer for the episode, and they make arrangements with the crew, and sometimes they'll be present for a table read of the episode before they go into actual rehearsals and shooting.
So then what part of this overall creative process is really holding them back?
Ego.
As a director,
mostly it's ego.
Well, when it comes to television shows, a lot of times it's just point and shoot. Unless you're doing some massive like action sequence or effect sequence, it's pretty standard shit. Like, you're really just there to fill in and do what
you're there. You're basically a disposable aspect. You're just there to say action, cut, do it slower, do it faster.
Yeah,
that's all you have to do.
If you have a question, you call the showrunner or talk to one of the producers, and you don't get to make.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing, I could probably direct an episode of Law and Order. I've seen enough of it.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
or NCIS.
Technically, probably yes. Like, especially if you have a good crew, because then you shouldn't have to worry about anything. And that's
they'll tell you what's needed, and then you just try to get the best out of it.
And that's the point of IATSE, and that's why they're so important. So there you go. And that segues now nicely, because I want to say what else is important is our members. We have Goddess of Whim, who I sadly missed her super chat earlier as far as like getting to it right away, but hopefully she's still here. We want to thank you for being a member for the last 6 months. And Paulie is also a member, and he sent in a message that says Tom X. Thank you so much for that, Paulie. I appreciate it. But yeah, so this last weekend I got to see Venom. Did anybody else get to see it besides me? Valiant?
No. He'll be right back.
Check out. Okay. So it doesn't sound like anybody but me got to see it unless Valiant did. I don't know if you guys saw it in the chat. I know Paulie did. If you're not busy, Paul, you can pop in here and talk with us if you want to. Red Tigress is a new member. Well, thank you so much for becoming a member. Let's get you a
upgraded.
Well, she upgraded to what?
To maximum effort puppy.
Ooh, we got a maximum effort. Let me get a maximum effort puppy for you. Let's see here. What do we got? Let's do this one. We haven't done this one in a while. There we go.
Joker voice hated it.
Joker voice hated it, huh?
I didn't like the first one.
Well, in that case, I don't know if you'd like this one.
I'm hoping to like it more because of Carnage.
I'm sorry, I had to step out. I got a call. I'm apparently been tapped to direct an episode of Star Trek Discovery, so we'll see how that goes. So yeah,
just go do it and make it worse.
I can't do any worse.
You poor bastard.
You think that?
I think
Secret Hideout is always been we've always been underestimating how low Secret Hideout can go when it comes to Star Trek. So.
This is true.
If we
Well,
can turn
folks,
that
I'm
into
going to try to
harvesting
beat that
power,
record.
I
Oh,
can't
Valiant.
believe that butthole thing was real.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to see Venom this weekend?
Unfortunately, no. I really wanted to. I couldn't. I'm still the main theater where I'm at that I always like to go see. It's a nice place. I think the Regal's still open, but the theater that I've always patroned, it had its roof ripped off. I actually passed by it last week, and they had never really announced what the extent of the damage was from Hurricane Ida. But when I drove by last week, I looked over and they had, I think every one of those Electro Voice speakers were piled up in the parking lot. So they apparently had the roof ripped off. The rain came in from Hurricane Ida and just damaged apparently a significant portion of the building and inside the seats, probably everything else out too. It was apparently a mess. Man. So yeah, I wish I could. I'm gonna have to try to go catch it at the other theater when I can. Hopefully sometime this week or this weekend.
Well, Adam Wolford sends in a $5 super chat, says, but how did all those injuries on Batwoman? There was at least 3 major injuries, and Ruby had to get surgery so she wouldn't be in a wheelchair. Well, as far as the Batwoman thing, I think that has, I don't know how much that has to do with the IATSE side of things, as it does more with safety precautions.
Yeah, that's different. Also, Ruby's injury allegedly happened on another production, and she did not notify that production and supposedly used Batwoman to pay for her surgery there. The other instance where this poor woman was crushed, I don't know how or why someone allowed her to stand underneath that object, because that's rule 1 is you don't stand underneath anything on a set.
It's a good idea.
And, just like you don't really point the gun at them, you point past them.
If it's a stage gun, you can still point at them because there's nothing in it.
You have to
check that there's nothing in there. Yeah.
You still want to. It's probably for better.
I don't know what the third injury was though, so I'm curious.
Wasn't there like a stunt injury of some type? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, was it a motorcycle one?
I think it was a motorcycle one. I'm not
100%. That one's just a free guy. That's basically on the stunts team things. That's not IATSE. It is not responsible.
And then Super Nate says, I personally really enjoyed Venom 2 a whole lot. One of the top movies of the year, in my opinion. Well, Super Nate, I'm glad you did enjoy it. And another person who I think enjoyed it as well was Paulie.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. What's up? What's up, Tom?
Did you just fart?
No, I moved the chair and made it.
It sounded like a chair scoot. Tom goes right for the "you farted" joke.
Of course I did.
I mean, he may have. I left him down in the kitchen like for an hour. He may have like cleaned out all the rabbit chicken meat I had in the freezer.
Stephen Otten says that Carnage is the best part of the movie. Let's see here. SASXHBK said it was boring. Red Tigress loved it. So we got kind of a mix across the board here.
Tom, we got breaking question. Too Much 77 asked the important question since Paulie had the time to chime in tonight. The question from Too Much 77, Mike, when are you going to chain down Paulie for that Star Trek Discovery reaction video? You know, I completely forgot to put that on Paulie's work plan for while he's been here in South Carolina. Too Much 77, thank you for reminding me. And since Paulie's here, that reminds me, I'm going to put that at the top of the agenda.
I got to go.
God, you just made the shit list, pal.
Paulie, I want to thank you.
Paulie's losing internet connection right now.
I want to thank Paulie for taking the time to join us on Midnight Edge After Dark because I would have forgotten all about it. He would have gotten on the plane, but now it's at the top of my agenda. Thank you, Too Much 77.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm sorry, Paulie. I do apologize for that.
No, I promised Andre, and I'm going to meet my commitments.
Slade Wilson says, I don't think PG-13 can do Carnage justice. Well, Paulie, you and I are the only ones who have seen this film on the panel. What did you think? Give us your brief review of the film.
Campy, funny, strange, weird, silly, badass. Great. Oscar, Bert and Ernie were an odd couple that Tom Hardy and Venom had. Woody and Carnage was okay. Carnage was pretty cool. The effects were pretty cool. It was a silly, it was fun. It wasn't like great, but I had fun, and I did that instant reaction last week, and
Was Carnage evil?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
I mean, okay, we're not doing spoilers, are we?
Not spoilerific, but
character basis.
I have a question. How come so many people are saying that it was boring? Could you see
I
that
don't get
perspective?
that. I don't get that either.
I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me.
I do get that. Because if you don't lock into the kind of the style of the language script, like it's kind of so mumbly and bumbly, but like clever and just odd, that if you don't latch on to that right away, you tune out. I don't know if that makes sense, script, but
I connected to away the whole plot yesterday. Well, it's a real simplistic plot. Like, I mean, it's.
I'm gonna guess that Venom fights Carnage. Right?
That's pretty much the plot. Like,
I mean, are we?
I mean, really, once you get into the nuances of it, there really isn't that much to give away. I mean, what else can you really say?
Alien being symbiotic being takes over a person on planet Earth, and mayhem ensues.
Yep.
I mean, I guess I'm not so sure I can see the boring aspect, because as an editor, especially, we just lost Paulie. Hopefully he comes back.
Mike, did you just strap him down for STD?
You did, didn't you? He's running. He's running. We got a runner, kids.
We got a runner.
Well, that or tell him to come upstairs and get on with you there or something.
Oh no, I'm not sharing the seat again. That's a pain in the ass. He can get back on the Wi-Fi. He'll be back.
All right.
My internet's been real spotty on the East Coast since yesterday.
Yeah, well, we can have it. There he is. Okay, but yeah, like
he's back. He's back.
I guess you see why people would think it's slow, Paulie, but honestly, especially from an editor's point of view, it clipped along, in my opinion. Like, it didn't really waste any time getting into business.
No, it didn't waste time at all. No, my thing is that maybe that type of comic book movie, which I love. It was so odd and different. Like, it's so un-Marvel. Maybe it turned people off. I had a great time. So,
I mean, I guess I can see from the point of view of it not being R-rated. And I know some people have already asked, do we think there's going to be a director's cut or an R-rated cut? No. If we were going to ever get one, it was going to be the first movie, and we didn't. Because that one was clearly shot with the possibility of an R rating in mind. I don't know if Paulie agrees with me or not, but a few other people I've talked to do agree with me in the sense that it feels like this movie was clearly shot as a PG-13, and I don't think there's an R-rated cut here.
Well, see, the problem is, man, that like Venom has never been comic relief. He's all teeth and he's formless, essentially.
Well, the comedy comes out of his, because they play Venom a lot like a dopey bodybuilder in a way.
Yeah, it's like Odd Couple
mixed with an alien, because he's kind of like, it's like Elf, but mixed with Arnold Schwarzenegger. It really is, like the way they play it out. It's more so the comedy comes out of him not understanding, but him being like, I'm the bestest.
I just think it's funny because it's like they don't realize that he's a bad guy.
Well, they do play with, like, that's the thing. In this version, this is that other comic book version where Venom is more of the hero. And Carnage is clearly the villain here. Like, there's no if and qualms about that at all. Like, even
I love that. Yeah, I'm sorry. I love that Woody and Carnage have a problem with each other. That they're not symbiotic.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. That's exactly what I was gonna say without getting too much into it. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was really cool, and that it makes sense. I mean, Woody's a serial killer. I mean, he's fantastic.
But Carnage also will go to places he won't. Is kind of what it is. Yeah, let's say that. How's that?
Right.
Without getting into spoilers.
He does have the line when it came to his girlfriend.
Well, I didn't want to get into specifics, but yeah. No, it's all right.
Exactly. At least it's not Agent Venom.
Yeah, Brian Barth asked, so Woody hasn't aged at all. No, he hasn't. Woody Harrelson looks the same as he did years ago.
Looks better than ever. I actually thought that, unless they mess with him CGI wise, He looks fantastic.
No, he looks the same. That's why I don't get why because you know what I'm talking about. Like in the beginning, they had the younger version of him, and it was played by another actor, but they did the same voice. It was so off-putting because I'm like, we know what Woody Harrelson looked like in 1995. He looked the same. Like,
I kind of liked him. I kind of liked.
It just didn't look like him. It kind of threw me off. I'm just like, huh?
And Paulie, someone in the chat is taking issue with your comment, and Lombardi says that Latino slanted Mexican are the odd couple.
Which one's
that's
Oscar?
A very accurate description, I would say.
We're actually
Felix
not.
and which
We
one's
actually get a
Oscar?
lot of.
Sorry, Mike.
I think
Oscar.
it's quite obvious that Paulie is Jack Lemmon and Mikey is Walter Matthau.
I don't know though.
Oh my God.
I think they exchange roles when the situation calls for it. But
Mikey will
Let's go back to the
cigars.
Back to the movie.
I
Back to
want
the
to
movie.
see the show.
Tom, did you get that part when he jumped into that car, the homage to Natural Born Killers?
Not sure. Because I haven't seen Natural Born Killers only but like twice, and I don't like it.
Then they put a laugh track to it.
There's a few other things I picked up on, but yeah.
He did like a little Elvis. They even played like a little bit of music, and then he was in that car. So I thought that was cool. I think that was a little
kind of.
little,
it probably was in that respect. You're probably right. I just didn't probably catch it because, like I said, I was never a huge fan of that film because Tarantino kind of like disowned it. So I got to stick with my boy
Schumacher, huh?
No, fucking Oliver. Was it Oliver Stone took it away from him, didn't he?
Yeah.
Natural Born Killers. Yeah.
Oh, Oliver Stone directed it.
Yeah, he rewrote it, directed it, and completely changed everything about it. Yeah.
It was a completely
True Romance.
ass movie.
True
Romance was a great movie.
True Romance. Yeah, that was I don't know if Ridley or Tony Scott directed that. I don't know if Schumacher had anything to do with that.
I love him, Christopher.
But he loves
Walken's
True
like,
Romance.
I haven't killed anyone.
Yeah, True Romance is good. Yeah, he likes True Romance, but
not enough people know that movie.
Oh, I love romance, even when it's not true, but it's just romance.
So yeah, getting to the box office aspect of this, though, I mean, I guess the bigger question is with a lot of the reactions to this film, regardless of how I felt and how you may have felt, Paulie, the movie still did pretty well. Did extremely well. In fact, it did 10 million more opening weekend than the original film did with no pandemic to deal with.
Yep.
I mean, it's the right move for the right times. People are looking to escape. I mean, it makes sense. It's a kick-ass ride. Tom Hardy's a big attraction. And so is Venom now because it's the second one. There's a little bit of a, movie love for him and Spider-Man connection. I didn't see the first one, by the way. I did not see the first one.
Weird. Okay.
I
So
love
you're
the
actually
first.
to
I really
follow
like
along
the first
even
one. I
without
enjoy
seeing
it.
the first one, huh?
I loved it.
Yeah, this is the second film of this year. Of course, it's on a bigger scale. The second film of this year to really show, or at least have a very good metric for pre-pandemic measurements. The first was A Quiet Place Part 2. Quiet Place Part 2 was also a theatrical exclusive release, and it did very, very well. And we're talking, maybe 4 or 5 months ago now, I think. It did very well, especially when compared to its preliminary installment, which was back in also 2018 when the first Venom came out. So we really have a good benchmark here. Quiet Place Part 2, I think, closed out, it was 280, maybe 290 million globally, which was pretty much, at least as far as it opened and how it tracked, I think domestically was pretty much, if memory serves, it was in the realm of the first film. And now we're getting Venom, and we're kind of seeing the same thing, and it's like I've been talking about, and all you guys have been talking about for months. Hollywood, everybody loves to use the lockdown excuse or the pandemic excuse. We've seen so much evidence of people returning to their favorite sporting events, concert venues, everything out there. And it's like, okay, why has the cinema apparently been lagging behind? It's a content problem. Well, now we're finally getting some content that is driving butts into seats out there in theaters.
I don't know if I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I don't agree with that.
That's okay.
but Godzilla versus Kong, Fast 9, like you said, Quiet Place. I mean, those are huge movies. Valiant. I mean, those are IPs, franchises. I think what those movies were able to do, Valiant, is crack the seal. Where like month by month, it's getting safer and easier and easier to go to the movies. And now it's like it's fall. Yeah, people are at concerts, like you said. People are at the football games. We're going to the movies.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And the only reason I didn't bring up Godzilla versus Kong, you mentioned that one, I agree with you on those movies, is because, of course, that I think that movie could have done even better than it did. But of course, that is a little bit different because that wasn't a theatrical exclusive release. They released that day and date on HBO Max.
Yeah, but that goes with testing the streaming market and the release at the same time. Just like you said, you know, what would be crazy if Godzilla and Kong came out now? Woo, that would be just in theaters. I mean, I think it would make a buttload.
Oh yeah, well, at the time Godzilla versus Kong came out, by comparison, I think when that was the first big blockbuster, quote unquote, that came out this year. It was late March, and you still had, if memory serves, you still had severe capacity restrictions, if not a lot of closures still in Los Angeles and New York. So again, that's the only reason I kind of didn't pull that one into the fray, was because that actually was a little bit different. But as we've gone through the summer, as those markets have been open, and again, like I said, with A Quiet Place and with Venom, we have two direct comparisons to predecessor movies that both came out in 2018. So that's why I kind of like using them as it's a relative benchmark, so we can see exactly how they perform to their prior peer.
How did well, you said content. You said content. There was no content. So what about, how did Mortal Kombat do? So you had Mortal Kombat, Fast 9, Godzilla.
Mortal Kombat did not do very well.
Mortal Kombat, dude, that thing just shot itself in the foot. They could have made so much money on that, and then the movie was just terrible.
Yeah, it was kind of silly. It's pretty bad.
His special power was plot armor.
Regardless, the movie, that part aside, the movie still would have done twice as good had it not been on streaming, I bet. And Sheriff Brackett, this was directed by Andy Serkis, and I'm not surprised because he's kind of been an up-and-coming director, especially when it comes to effects-heavy films. He was the second unit director on The Hobbit. He directed that Mowgli movie or whatever it was for Netflix that was really heavy-duty CGI, and I think he's worked on a few other things. And then, so like this was kind of his graduation present. It looks like, and I think he did a good job. I mean, it's not a perfect fucking movie. I'm not going to say that. Like, it's definitely like a 7 or 8 out of 10 at the most, and that's at the most.
I wanted to go back what someone said in the chat about like they're so tired of the overused comedy, and I agree, the Marvel comedy, but there's something different about this type of comedy. Like, it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to say, because like Jesse was just saying before, like Venom is a bad guy. Well, yeah, they don't so much have him be a bad guy in this, but they want him to be he wants to be a badass, right? Like they
want him to be an anti-hero. And
he is
a bad guy.
And they play with that part of his character, and that's where the humor comes out of. Because, like I said, like he keeps saying shit like, like, you suck, we are the reason we are a hero. That kind of shit. Like, it's more of him playing off the fact that that Eddie's a little pussy. Right, I think he even calls him a pussy like 3 or 4
times. Yeah, but that once again, totally not Eddie Brock.
I know, and I get where you're coming from, but it's that different version, and I get that, and that's why I can totally understand people not liking that, right? But sure. I'm also one of those where
it's a way where they got to push him into a movie as opposed to making a movie about Venom, because Venom and Eddie Brock, either one of them, they're both very two-dimensional characters. There's not a lot there. He's just cool looking. He has cool superpowers. That's why people like Venom.
Well, and Slade asks, Cletus Cassidy is a psychopathic killer. Venom is not a comedic character. I don't understand how this is a comedic movie that stays true to their characters. Well, at no point is Carnage ever played for laughs. And again, Venom, it's more of a laughing along with him than it is laughing at him per se. It has more to do with the humor comes out of his just misunderstanding and his abrasiveness than it does out of. It's
that's the problem. There's not supposed to be any of that.
Well, you can play with that though, and I think maybe
he's a monster from space. He was in his own special prison in Secret Wars.
They play it kind of like, it's not exactly like fish out of water script, but help me out here. It's kind of more like they pull the humor out of the fact that he's trying to be this badass, monster, basically, right? And the comedy moments come out of that stuff, not so much them playing them for laughs, especially like the Marvel laughs. I wish you had seen it because you could.
Yes, is Script back?
I don't know if he's back yet or not, but
I just sat down. Sorry.
Hey, Tom, if it's okay with you, Paulie, can you come upstairs and use the studio? I got a work call that I got to take.
Oh, I was gonna bounce too right after.
Oh, okay.
Right after.
All right. Tom, I'll be right back. I gotta take a quick work.
No
call.
problem.
Okay, I'm just gonna mute.
All right. But no, like I get where people are coming from. Though, go ahead, Mike.
No, yeah. So now the script is back. The comedy there's like physical, sight gags. There was a little bit of that with Venom, and I see why people are upset about that. But then there's that comedy under the breath a lot that Eddie had, like just odd and funny ass things, where if you don't lock in right away script, you get lost or you become bored. What is that type? What is that style?
You mean talking Soto to oneself, so to speak?
Was he talking solo?
No, not solo. Soto. Sotto.
Oh, like sotto voce?
Not really, but okay.
No. Like, is that the same word, soto? Like STTO?
It means to oneself, actually.
Right. So,
yeah,
sotto voce is something different. I'm sorry, but
that's okay.
You're using that Latin or Italian. I don't know what it is.
It's all the same root words, romance languages.
But so I know his cadences are, it's just so different and odd. But I was locked in. But I see if people weren't script, they would see it as a boring film.
Basically, it's like, did it do an effective job to ask for permission to the audience that this is the tone of the film or this is the tone of the character? And if you weren't paying attention enough, you probably wouldn't have realized what that was, and as a result, checked out. Is that what you're trying to convey?
Correct.
Okay.
Because a lot of people in the chat saying that they were bored. And we're like, well, what the fuck is
yeah, and that was Gary's review, and a couple of guys on FN2 were the same way. And I'm just like, I don't know what movie they're seeing. I mean, I guess that's subjective to a point, but like, I mean,
because the comedy being there is boring. That's the thing. I don't want to see him making eggs and making jokes. I don't want to see any of that shit. I don't even want to see him living in an apartment, for Christ's sake. He should be in hobos under a bridge.
Yeah, but that's a film adaptation, Jess. I mean, that's different.
All this guy is rage and anger and bitterness and jealousy. That's his driving factors.
They're not going to
make. He's not like, I hope I get back with my ex-wife. Hope she takes me back over that other guy who's banging her right now. That's why I hated the first one. Now this one, I want to see carnage, but I don't want to see any. I don't want to see any of this Tom Hardy and Venom stuff at all. Like at all.
No, and I get that. I mean, for some people, this is not going to be the movie you want to see, and I get that, I guess. But like, at the same time, I cannot deny that it's not a decent film for what it is, right? Like, I can't sit there and say it's not. I enjoyed it. I had fun for 90 minutes.
Well, look at the last one. Was there any character development in any of the bad guy of the three aliens, the three evil Venom type symbiotes? Was there any character?
Well, there's only two symbiotes
in the last one. See.
No, there's only two in this one, and in the first one, there's only one.
No, in the first one, there was multiple ones.
Was there?
Yeah, see? No character development.
I don't remember there being more than one in the first one.
If they were good characters, we were remembered.
That's true, yes.
Well, I mean,
I never said the first movie was that great either. I just said it was decent. I've only watched it once.
See, like, this is so hard for me because it's like one of those things where on the surface level, it's like, oh, okay, I'll let it go. Then the more I think about it, it's just like,
well, you know
this is just pandering.
Okay, Jesse, regardless, it's doing well at the box office. I mean, you're talking 109 million worldwide, 90 million opening weekend, 95 US and Canada. This thing is rocking. And if we look at can we go to the James Bond numbers now, Tom?
Yeah, James Bond is also doing very, very well.
All right,
Extremely
I'm
well.
gonna bounce.
All right, take
Okay,
care.
love you, Paulie. Hey, everybody,
Paulie.
check out Paulie Latino Slant. He's got some great videos he's posted and a lot of real cutting edge stuff. And he's been really pumping them out. Paulie, promote yourself.
Tomorrow night, we got the data from all over this past month of craziness with the Hispanic Heritage Month. We got data from all over Latin America. What are the trends? Looks like Latinx is conquering. So we're going to break those numbers down.
Yeah, and the first one was Riot or whatever, but wasn't he just basically like a clone of Venom or some shit? I can't remember.
You're all right.
Yeah, but
Bye,
anyhow.
Paulie.
Good to see you, Paulie.
Take care, guys. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Later, Paulie.
Peace out, brother.
Take care.
Peace.
So yeah, I just instantly am thinking about how skewed are those polls? How many people from which party did they send them to? I mean, polls are just controlled. I don't trust polls anymore.
No.
So yeah, Bond is doing pretty well, considering it's only opened in a few markets. It opens here this week.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it Thursday.
The reviews are getting out there. Some people are understandably not happy with the film before they've even seen it, and they don't even want to see it because there's been a lot of leaks about what the plot is. But at the same time, we've also got a lot of surprising reviews saying it's not nearly as bad as we thought it was going to be, and a lot of the media is pushing shit that isn't even in the film. So again, this is kind of like we've seen with Venom and the upcoming film Dune, according to some people as well. So yeah, I think that's interesting, and especially considering how much money this has made already, and how much it'll probably stand to make here in the U.S. when it finally drops next week, or this week, I should say. So I'm curious what everybody's reaction to how well this film did.
Let's just go down the line. I guess I'll go first. Combined with what we've seen with Carnage and going back to what we talked about a couple months ago, I'm not surprised. I think I think the theaters themselves don't want to die. People in general still want to go to the movies. These numbers support that. I think my lens that I'm looking through these films, and I will see Carnage this weekend. I will see No Time to Die this Thursday. So when we do the Thursday show, I should be coming right out of the movie, I think, depending on the timing of it. But here's what I think. You know, we can argue about whether or not the movies are good or not, but there's kind of three levels. Is it woke, which means it's probably going to be bad. Then another level might be, is it meh or average or mediocre, or maybe some people love it, some people hate it. And then is it just fantastic and everybody thinks that it's just the bestest thing ever, in a sincere way, I mean. And what I'm going to say is that if you go woke, you're going to go broke. But what No Time to Die and Carnage seem to have in common is that they're not overly woke or not woke or whatnot. And you know what? People are spending the money. They're going back to the theaters. And Tom, you just went to the theater for the first time. I mean, what was your reaction? And what would
it was nice to get out to the theater. I missed it.
Right?
I mean, I used to go quite a bit, not quite as much as I used to before everything shut down. But I mean, I still look forward to it. What sucks for me is just the traveling time. Like, I'm one of those people, if I had a decent local cinema, I'd go all the fucking time. Like, I'd probably see just about everything like you do. Like, my problem is just the traveling distance and time and all that shit.
I think, I've been going now. This will be my 7th week. I've only missed, or 8th week, I guess. I've only missed 1 week, and I can't wait to see No Time to Die. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's okay. Maybe I'm a hardcore Bond fan. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what my reaction is. I'll tell you that much.
I love Lavi's comment.
Well, considering the way we heard it happens, it's not necessarily, and he will be back. So,
yeah, that's just the thing that you're compromising there. He's not supposed to at all.
Killing a character isn't woke in any way, shape, or form. It's how it's done.
Yeah,
That's the concept you have to remember, guys. Like,
yeah, but if they
it's not as arbitrary as you want to think it is.
I see it as
James Bond is not a title. If he's gone, that's it. No
I was going to say, I think that's the
the
problem. I think people have with it more so, and that's understandable. But again, they're just turning it into its little pocket universe. So what? Whatever. I guess.
Can I ask a question? Now, seeing as James Bond's brothers are all named James Bond, is each one of these different Bonds just supposed to be one of the brothers?
Could be.
So that way we could get around everything. Thank you, James Bond Jr. You finally paid off.
That cartoon. Oh God.
Okay.
Watch one episode of that, and you'll never watch another one.
That's true.
I just solved the whole equation with nonsense.
Jesse, I don't know how to say this in a loving way, but put the peace pipe down slowly.
But is James Bond Jr. not canon?
I have no fucking clue. Is
No
any of
idea.
it really canon to anything anymore? So just real quick then, Jesse, so we can move on.
Very good.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised by the box office?
Pleasantly. I mean, movies don't have to appeal to me in order for me to be happy for their success. I love the James Bond franchise. I mean, I don't like this iteration of it, but whatever. But I think that people should be getting out more. I think people should be going out and doing everything they possibly can to try to enjoy their freedoms and show everyone that they do enjoy their freedoms and they're not going to give away said freedoms. So anything like this is good. And I think it does harken into the next phase where we're going to be moving more and more away from all the woke bullshit because people are sick of it. Even the lefties are sick of this shit at this point.
Right.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, but a good amount. Good amount. It's like there's a point where it just becomes ridiculousness, and it's just you can't bullshit people anymore, and you can't bullshit yourself.
So next in line,
Alrighty,
Script Doctor, you're up.
Oh yeah, I was not surprised by this. When we were talking about the predictions, was it a week and a bit ago? And I thought minimum 90 million. So yeah, it's exceeded that by 31. It's good.
Yeah.
That's all you have to say, Valiant?
Well, I didn't know it was my turn. I was just kind of
Well,
nodding.
I know,
Look
I
at the
would
screen.
There's nothing really to elaborate on. The numbers are there. Theaters haven't gone anywhere. I mean,
I know.
Yeah,
but,
no,
but
I-
Valiant, on the other hand, when it comes to numbers, it's like, yeah.
Look, okay, I'll put it this way. I really didn't have any, because I don't know how to really look at these international markets as well as I do domestically. And I really hadn't taken a good hard look at Bond yet, although that's going to happen this weekend when it actually hits the U.S. market, or the North American market, rather. So that being said, yeah, the international opening for this, when I went back and I looked at Spectre, when I looked at Skyfall, yes, it's extremely impressive. Of course, just from a pure financial standpoint, obviously, it still has one hell of a freaking ladder to climb to get into the black.
And that's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, and here we are. You've got it up on screen, and you've got the budget at $250 million. Well, we know
that's charitable.
Yeah, exactly. That ain't happening. It's over 300 million.
Let's say that's the original budget.
Right, exactly. That was the original proposed budget for the film. We know we have gone well beyond that, to the tune of at least 20, maybe 30 plus
I would say
percent.
it's closer to 3 or 350 from what I heard.
That's
God. That means
well,
in order
you
to
have the reshoots.
They had all
You
the
have
reshoots.
$1
They
million
had,
a month just in interest.
oh, more than that,
You had
Tom.
the $30 million that was spent on the advertising before they pulled it the first time. So just in that alone,
yeah, the carrying interest
350.
of the movie cost, right? You have to have the the to that.
Well,
Wait
that
a minute, are
was
you telling me that the cost of this thing, if we go at a 3x off of that estimate, is at 900 million?
Yes.
Holy shit!
Technically
Yeah,
a billion.
This
you want to
movie's
really
got
round
to,
it.
yeah. This movie has
That's
to
why they
reach
said
about
that.
$1 billion to really be
And that's
safely
why I've
in the
been
black.
disagreeing with people who are trying to say that, oh, but Shang-Chi is in the black now. I'm like, in what fucking world?
It's not. It's not. And like I said in my last video, I've got, people that I good friends on YouTube. Hell, friends that went to the same high school as I did on YouTube, that had different figures, and I love them to death. I just respectfully disagree. And this is kind of the reason why there really aren't many movies out there these days. And this is one of the videos that I'm working on. I can hopefully try to get this on in the next week, talking about marketing and P&A when it comes to these movies. That's print and advertising. There's not many of these blockbusters that are coming out these days that aren't getting at least $80 to $100 million in P&A. Bond is way more than that. I mean, the article, I think, from I don't know if it was Forbes or somebody. There was a number of places putting it out, but the all-in costs on this movie are somewhere around $450 million,
I wouldn't
approaching
go
half
that
a
high,
billion.
but maybe.
Yeah, well, when you, I mean, they probably have
Could be.
somewhere around 300 million, 3 to 350
Well-
in production, and at least another 150 in marketing, P&A. You've got probably another 15 to 20 million in the interest on all this shit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they've
you know.
spent now on that, but I know the interest was $1 million a month, is what they said. If it was more than that, that's news to me. But
It's based on 5%
Yeah.
of the production
well,
budget.
they actually had it come out, and they said it's
Yeah.
like $1 million. Maybe it was like $1.2 million or something like that a month.
Yeah,
I can't remember the exact.
That's about
number.
5% of 250.
You could be right. So,
Yeah.
like, regardless, like, okay, so you add that in there. Like the number though I'm sticking with is because I was told that everybody who came to go to see it, from Netflix to Apple to Amazon to all those guys a few months ago, and they walked away because nobody would offer more than 400 million for it.
Right.
And MGM wanted 450, but that's where I was thinking about 350 to 400 is probably where they're at, because that way they have a little profit in there.
That's where they were when they were talking about it months ago. And
you're probably
again,
right then. Yeah.
Since then, and this is my point, Tom, since then they've had more interest accrue on their credit line. And all these studios use credit lines to produce these things. They've also ramped up, because you know how P&A works, and Script can probably certainly attest to this. When you do print and advertising, you do marketing for these movies, the bulk of that budget gets spent 30 to 60 days before the movie comes out. They were trying to sell it months ago, 6 to 8 months ago, to guys like Amazon and Apple,
right?
For
yeah.
500-600 million or 400 million or something like that.
They wanted 450 at least.
Right.
They wanted more than that, but like, yeah.
Right. And then when everybody walked away, what would they have had to have done? Shit, we have to go to theaters. That means we've got to inject. Now, for what, a third time, we have to re-ramp the marketing on this. That's probably another 50-60 million that they didn't want to spend, which is why they were trying to sell it when they did. They couldn't sell it, so then it was balls to the wall. It's an issue called sunk cost. They were already so deep in this hole, they had no choice. They were going to have to come out of pocket another 50-60+ million dollars to remarket this movie and pump theatrical exhibitioners, get butts into seats in the theaters, because that was the only hope they had to generate revenue for this movie at that point. So yeah, I think that's why we're at the $900 to $950 million break-even point now. It's unfortunate, and I'm truly glad that a lot of people seem to really, hey, look, this movie's not nearly as bad or as woke or whatever as we thought it was. And I hope it does well. I personally have enjoyed the Daniel Craig Bond stuff. I know it's different. Probably, I'm certainly like everybody else. Probably the movie of the Craig series that I watched the least is Quantum of Solace. Although I do love watching the first 10 minutes of that movie for the car chase and gunfight scene. But I loved Casino Royale. I loved Skyfall and Spectre. I really did enjoy them. I was tremendously looking forward to this. I still am. I want to go see it. But yeah, it's got to make a shit ton of money just to get to where it hits that break-even point.
Well, and that kind of gets around to the point I wanted to get to, and I knew you would bring it up. And that is not just with this film, but all the films we just talked about, is sadly, even though Venom 2 made 10 million more the opening weekend than the original film did, I still see it not being able to get to that 900+ million the first film did. Even though statistically this movie should be $1 billion film. Venom 2, I mean.
I would agree, only because at this point we still do not have a China release official, right? So
no, Venom did get a China release, I believe, or it's going to get one.
Well, Venom 2, but I don't know when it is. I haven't seen it on the calendar.
But no. My point is, though, is just by statistics alone, by the fact that it played better than the first film, even during this time period. Like, if it wasn't for the time period, the shit that we're dealing with now, on top of the other uphill battle that movie has coming up against it, and that is a bunch of big movies coming out every week from here on out.
Yeah, it's going to have a lot of competition.
Like one of them being the one we're looking at right now.
Exactly. Yeah, and we don't know what Bond is going to do yet in the domestic market. And
I think it's going to do just about the same.
I think it could. I think it could get up to the 80-90 million. It depends on how much
it's going to do about 90.
Yeah.
Well, Venom's going to sadly have like a 60 or 75% fall off because of Bond. And then the week after that, it's got to deal with Halloween. And then the week after that, it's got to deal with Dune. And then 2 weeks after that, it's got to deal with Ghostbusters. So, like, it's got a stacked deck against it here now.
That's
It
very
does.
true.
It
There's
does.
some good stuff coming.
But the one thing Venom has working for it is that, I started doing a little bit more digging today, trying to find if I could lock down, what I felt like was, who was getting the right numbers on the production budget. Well, apparently, this was around 110 million for Venom 2. I'm not a huge fan of Scotty Mendelssohn's, takes on films when it comes to editorials, but the guy does tend to get things right when it comes to the numbers because he's got a lot of inside scoops. And his number was $110 million production budget for Venom 2. Stick another 90 to 100 million on that for marketing costs. You also factor in the fact that Sony, unlike Disney, when it comes to Shang-Chi and things like that, Sony's not putting restrictions on their releases. They're not forcing theaters into 45-day windows where it drops onto a streaming service after 60 days, like Shang-Chi is or like Black Widow is. Sony's probably getting better revenue sharing agreements. Sony's probably getting closer to the revenue sharing agreements that most studios were comfortable with and familiar with pre-pandemic. That, when studios were putting things in theaters that did not have handcuffs on them, like it's going to go to streaming in 45 to 60 days, or it's going to go streaming day and date, right? If I'm AMC or Regal, I'm not going to offer Disney the same kind of terms that I offered them in 2018 and 19 for giving me Black Widow when they're going to stick it on Disney effing Plus the same day and date. So this is what's going to help, I think, Venom get to that point, because Venom should only need to get to, probably given all those facts, I think in the 375 to 400 range globally. I think that's doable to where it gets to a point where Sony might reach a break even. It has a lower,
I think it'll do a little bit
than
better,
Shang-Chi.
but I just think it's never going to make the kind of money it could. And it
No,
does have a
I
China
agree.
release. I just don't know the date yet.
I don't think they've announced it.
Yeah, I think this movie Venom will finish off around 500-600 million, unfortunately. But
I'd agree with that.
That's a big win for that movie, though. So,
absolutely, yeah.
I do have a few members chats and super chats to get here too quick. I want to get to Naked Fame, who has been a member for 2 months. Thank you so much. Or 3 months as a maximum effort puppy. We also have Polly, who said, "Hail Mead, hey chat." Who said this? Oh, Naked Fame said this.
Yeah,
Hail
Naked
Mead,
Fame.
hail chat. I love chat. That guy girl is awesome. Okay. So he loves you guys in the chat. There you go. And then we had 860 Scion God, who sent in $4.99, said, "I enjoyed Venom 2, but what took me out of it is knowing the comic lore. Real Spider-Man fans know Spider-Man and Venom can't be Carnage alone." And I get that too. That was my problem with the first movie, but despite that, I still wound up enjoying it. Like, I guess I was able to disconnect myself enough from that, and I know they're going to get around to it eventually, but I mean, I know where Jesse's coming from too, so I can't really argue with him too much on that point. So, yeah, and then we had Zax, who's also been a member for 2 months. Thank you so much. We had Nicholas Horton here as well, who says, "Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being a member." And then 860 Scion God came in again with another 4.99 and said, "Carnage is that powerful. He has to be tag teamed all the time, and how Venom beat him at the end would and could not ever happen. Just saying."
Correct.
Maybe, but he is
Not
kind
maybe,
of tag
correct.
teamed. Well, the way they do it, I don't know. You haven't seen it, Jesse, so
I do have his first appearance.
right.
So,
and
there's
again,
a big difference there.
and I know, and
I'm willing to believe that the guy who wrote this movie doesn't.
Well, honestly, from what I heard of how I haven't read the comic, but from how I heard he got started in the comic compared to the movie, I'd rather go with the movie.
In the comic book, he was inside of a prison during the Secret Wars. He was released by Spider-Man.
No, well, that's a whole nother side of things. I'm talking about the actual creation. Like you're talking about having to build years upon years of fucking lore to get where you're talking. The fact that they were able to make 2 entertaining movies without having to be attached to that lore, to me, still deserves some kind of notoriety. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I get where people are coming from.
Yeah, but back on that, why not just create a new character? Because you changed this character so much. Because
I get
they can't.
All right,
And now we no longer have this character to use because they changed it into this thing.
Well, I'm ordering you to see the movie by this weekend so you and I can compare notes. I'm going to see it Sunday. Let's see it Sunday. You see it Sunday, I'll see it Sunday.
Depends if my son wants to see it or not.
Oh. So what makes an Iron Man wants never what I want never matters to you.
I don't have any interest in this movie.
Oh, none at all?
I'd like to see what he does with Carnage, but once again, Woody Harrelson is poor casting for Carnage, so I don't
he was all right.
Carnage looks like Arcade from the X-Men.
Well, look, I think we can all agree as fans of movies in general. I'm glad that both these movies, however, semi-woke, kind of woke, not accurate to comic books, kind of accurate, totally different, whatever the heck. I'm just glad that people go into the movies and the numbers are good because they're a lot better than a lot of people thought they would be.
Mm-hmm. And then we had one from Wild Man Beyond who said, the better way to bring Bond into this era is to make the films R-rated and Bond as martial artist. Great Scott Adkins. He almost played Batman. Yeah. Wait, that was from, you've said that before, Wild Man Beyond, but yeah. I'm not so sure they'd ever go R-rated with Bond, but I'm with you there. I've said that a million times over, that not just that, or said them in the past. No sense in doing it in a modern era. It's just not going to work anymore. They're not going to allow it. He's too problematic. What do you guys think?
Well, I would say it's really difficult to keep secrets in current era than compared to the 60s and early 70s. So yeah, if someone were to build a giant undersea base at the bottom of the Atlantic that could rise up and steal oil tankers, I think people would be able to communicate that around social media pretty quickly, even if they thought it was conspiracy.
The guy welding the steel plates would have pictures posted on fucking Facebook.
Somebody's government. That or somebody's government would see it with a satellite, probably. But yeah, so then we also had Professor Gray who said, with $10, thank you so much, expectations are part of it. Most series not bad, some great or horrible. Then we got used Marvel. Now most is at best meh, at worst horrible, but both fans and studio need to learn how to manage. Okay, I think I get what you're saying here. And yeah, like, here's the thing, and I get where Jesse comes from in this, because he likes, and there's a lot of people who are like, it's right there in the comics, just do it like that, right? Like, I get it. But at the same time, a movie is a different monster.
See, what they're doing is they're using the Ultimate Universe as a basis for everything they do in the Marvel movies, and the Ultimate Universe is garbage. It's retcon garbage. They have like a 60 or 70 years. There's probably a dozen
reasons for that.
Yeah, well, look at the modern age.
Well, not just that. I mean, between paying certain people and all other things and other lawsuits and stuff we've seen,
so you need a dozen zeros. A dozen zeros for
when they started the Ultimate Universe, they ended the actual Marvel story that had been going on for like 70 years, and that's the day Marvel died. And they haven't put out anything worth buying since then. That's the way it works. Yeah. Comic books. You can't have a popular company that's been going on for 7 decades and then just change everything and completely end every single storyline you've ever done for a new version of it and have people stay on board.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying, like, I get it. Like, I love Jaws. It's my favorite movie of all time. I've read the novel. I'll be the first to tell you the movie's better than the fucking book, because the book meanders into a bunch of shit you don't need to know about. Or don't need to care about.
Is it like Moby Dick where it's like half nautical terms?
No, it's just a bunch of side stories that don't have anything to do with the main plot.
That's weird.
I mean, it does in the sense of the book, but like Spielberg was smart in how he just kind of streamlined the story and made it about the 3 guys. Like, that was what it needed to be. And even Jurassic Park, I'll argue that it wasn't him writing it, but, through his peoples, the same thing with Jaws, like they were able to make it something that was better than what was on the page in this meandering huge story. Now, Jurassic Park is full of a bunch of scientific stuff.
Yeah, but there's 2 things in that book I would have loved to see in that movie, and one was pterodactyls, and 2 was the T-Rex following them down a river like a big alligator.
And I get it. There's
That's
always
scary
stuff that I would love to see that we don't always get to see. But I'm also able to, like, as somebody who's been, read a lot of books and movies and seen a lot of movies, even been kind of in between doing stuff, like I'm sure Script can attest to something like this, that like adapting something to the screen is a whole different animal than just trying to do it page per page for a novel, or site for site for a comic book.
Well, yeah, I mean, when it comes to film, you have a far more limited time frame to work within than you do with a book. With a book, you just write until you get to the end of the story. It can be however many pages you want. But with a film, it's like, well, is this going to be 90 minutes? Is it going to be 2 hours? What is the most essential part of this? And that's why when writing a screenplay, it's all about the bare essentials. And when writing a book, like a novel or a short story, it's about the finer details.
Yep. And all that makes perfect sense. But it's like the Marvel story in particular. It's so like a spider web. Every different character is so overlaid with the next, and all the different storylines. Just if you change one, you change a whole lot of things. That's the issue, really.
Hey guys, I gotta pop out. I got a West Coast staffing issue I gotta handle with one of my staff, so I gotta pop out. Love you guys.
No problem. We're gonna be wrapping up pretty soon.
See you Thursday for sure.
No problem. Take care, Mike. No problem.
Have a good one, Mike.
Thanks,
later, Mike.
Bye, guys.
No, but even
Mikey's
like with the comics, I mean, look at a situation like, as much as I liked Watchmen, I mean, that's kind of like shows you how it's nearly impossible sometimes to just do something exact, right?
Yeah, and see, like everybody, I'm not gonna say everybody, but lots of people love Watchmen. I had never read or watched Watchmen. So, what was the original Watchmen? A miniseries, or was it an ongoing volume?
Oh,
it was a trade paperback, approximately like 12 issues for a year, of the Charlton characters that were rewritten and renamed into something more original. And I think Watchmen could be faithfully adapted in a 90-minute, 12-episode like series.
Yeah, because it's finite and self-contained.
Yes.
But at the same time, I can't believe I'm saying it, but Zack Snyder did a pretty goddamn good job of distilling that story down into 3 hours.
He proved that it could be made, and he basically proved that, yes, it is possible to make this in a more contained, more succinct way. It was a very contentiously received by a lot of the fans of that. But I mean, him doing that basically proved that, yes, people would be willing to watch Watchmen faithfully adapted from comic to screen, probably over a longer story thing like a miniseries. Unfortunately, Damon Lindelof got his hands on it and did his own thing, which was terrible.
Yeah, that I don't even want to get into. But no, like visually, Zach was able to pull it off. I will sit there and have a discussion any day of the week with anybody how I felt that the movie actually improved the ending. I hate the ending on the book. The movie version makes much more sense. I mean, I get why people are like attached to the original ending, but it's like, it makes more sense in the movie. It just does. It just, to me personally, it makes a hell of a lot more sense. It ties everything together better. It makes the ending more impactful. And to me, that was just the best way to do it.
But sometimes if you're trying to write a story at the end, you try to go for this realism angle that just falls flat.
Well, the thing is,
you got to go to what would happen in the
you haven't seen it, but basically,
whole situation.
Jesse, the same thing happens. The only difference is that instead of it just being a randomness, it's one of the characters that are technically involved.
Mm-hmm.
So they were able to tie, like, to me, it makes more sense, right? Because it also plays along with what the character's dealing with through the entire story.
And plays on into the fear of that one character,
yes,
and how, or at least how the world fears this one character.
Wasn't the whole, it's been a long time. Wasn't the whole thing that at the end he ended up sacrificing himself?
No, that's Rorschach. That's different.
That's different.
Yeah, same story, but different character.
Yeah, the same things happen, but like, yeah, it's. I got to give him credit, and I think that was what was it? Who else wrote on that besides Goyer? It was somebody else. I'm trying to remember.
Watchmen was fine, and that blue penis.
Yes,
the blue penis.
Wait, what?
Yes,
Billy Crudup's giant, oversized.
It was Dave Hayter and Alex. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Alex TSE. Alex E.
Also, Goyer didn't have anything to do with it.
No,
thank God. That's probably.
I mean, if he did, it would have been basically a lot of porno stuff and.
I thought, yeah, for some reason thought he did.
Yeah, Shum. Good Lord, just tell him the difference between the two endings.
You really want me to without ruining it?
You're not going to ruin something I'm not going to
Okay,
watch.
well, the only real big
been
difference
out for a dozen years.
In the beginning, in the end of the original one, it's basically it's one of the old members of the crew of the Minutemen or whatever who set everybody up and set this whole elaborate scheme up to bring peace to the world by staging an alien attack on New York.
Oh, that's Project Bluebeam.
Okay, so in the movie, then instead of it being just a random alien, he actually has it being Dr. Manhattan.
Yep.
Who actually
And
causes
he attacks all the major cities of the world instead of just New York. Yeah.
Yeah. So like and it ties it a little bit better because like Script was saying throughout the story, Dr. Manhattan's constantly questioning his existence, what he's about, all these other things, this existential stuff, all kinds of shit. So it really ties in because at the end, and he agrees that it's a good idea. He's like, it's the only way we can have peace. And Rorschach's like, no, it's fucking wrong. We're still lying to people. So you have this great dichotomy of this fight of which is which. Is it better for the greater good, or is it just doesn't matter? The truth should prevail. And you still
don't
get both.
Any of that in the original story, I'm assuming.
And then he liquefies Rorschach.
Yeah, you do, but it's much more convoluted.
Well, and you still have the truth. It's just the fact that instead of it's a fake alien species that does not exist, which is pretending to attack. Well, which ended up attacking New York and creating the same result, except the fact that it's not. It's an unknown. It's a complete 100% unknown. Where in the film, it's a known adversary. It's Dr. Manhattan, who the world fears because he is a god on Earth.
Yeah, like he's Superman times 10. Plus, he can do all kinds of shit that you could never even dream Superman could do. Like, so like he's just like the ultimate superhero.
Cool. He can multiply himself millions of times over and literally be standing next to you, like 30 versions of him could be right next to you. And then
basically, let me put it to you this way, Jesse. There's a scene where he has multiples of himself having sex with his wife.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, see what I mean?
Happy wife.
Exactly, and she's pretty
freaks
hot.
her out.
But yeah,
only for a minute.
No, she gets even more upset when there's a third one in another room working on science stuff.
Yeah, that's what typical woman. Can't be happy that we're spending time with her while we're working. No.
And here's where we get in trouble.
And scene. No.
And that's from the comic book too. So
yeah,
see, my only fear there would be somebody's powers, them losing control, and then they would just keep multiplying until they filled up everything, kind of like gray goo theory.
Well, and that's kind of like not at that exact point, but like that's kind of what Dr. Manhattan's all about. Is he's kind of afraid of his own powers, right? Like he's not even quite sure what he's capable of it to a point. Like he's a very interesting character, and I don't even want to see that new shit that Lindelof did. I don't even want to I've not seen 1 second of it, and I refuse
the HBO series.
I saw the advertisement. It looked like a Nazi youth
It's horrible. Video. I can't even believe I got through 2 or maybe 3 episodes of it. It was terrible, just terrible.
You were going to say something, Script, about it.
Oh no, yeah, it's not even worth any effort. It's really, really bad.
No, I'll avoid it like the plague.
It actually kind of predicts everybody wearing masks, though. But that's another thing.
Right. So other than that, since we lost Mike, what was the other stories he had set up for us? Poor guy. I worked him to death.
I thought it was just those.
I think we got them all.
That's all I had.
That was it.
Yeah, that's all I had.
That was it.
Oh, Lord. Now is where we venture into talking about toilet seats.
Well, Keanu Reeves is getting a
Keanu Reeves. What's he doing?
Oh, Berserk, right? The Netflix.
Yeah,
BRZRKR.
It's really funny. It's BRZRKR.
Yeah. That's the one he was doing the comic book of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was him and another guy named Matt Kint. But Script Doctor actually knows the story behind this without needing the article. So,
I know a little bit about this, which is the screenplay rumored. There's a screenplay for this character that went circulating around with Keanu Reeves attached during his the heyday of John Wick. And nobody wanted it, so they do what a lot of screenwriters have been told to do by the representation. They turned it into a comic book so that they could secure a distribution deal for film. And that's what they've done.
Well, anything with Keanu Reeves ought to be badass.
Well, the thing is, Keanu Reeves was attached originally, and they still said no, which, I mean, so what they had to do is they had to test the market to see if it was actually a sell, and apparently the comic did quite well on its own, and therefore justified an investment from Netflix to.
I'm still waiting for mine.
Is Mattson Tomlin of the Batman writer here? Is he from Good Batman or like crazy Batman, where Alfred's his gay Chinese uncle.
His uncle?
Yeah.
Well, I think he's one of the co-writers of The Batman with Matt Reeves.
Okay.
Oh, which
So
that supposedly is rumored to be getting a green light already for the second film, I heard.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't see Matt Reeves wanting to do that.
I don't know what to believe on that one. Yeah.
They're also trying to make like another Terminator television series. Like, there's stuff that I just don't think it's going to be 100%.
You know where I think this story is coming from? Because yesterday the big news came out that Ben Affleck was in The Flash.
Yep.
So I think somebody read a little bit. But that could just be me. Well, you know what? People are happy with that Batman. I love my Batman.
I don't think you're wrong.
Oh, I didn't sound British enough. Sorry.
I don't know. I'm with Nathan.
Because I think you guys are right. I think Matt Reeves is ready to walk on this shit.
Yeah, I mean, look, okay, the story about the whole, banging the chick on the Batmobile, okay, but throw that out for a second.
Well, it's not real, but yeah.
No, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. Okay, that turned out to be just bogus, but the rest of the stuff about, Pattinson not staying in shape, not doing his workout regimen, showing up on the set like as a skinny waif of a person, didn't look anything like his stunt double and all this stuff that we heard. That looks like, as far as I know, turned out to be true. Now, script, you might know different, but I mean, that looks like more the problem. And I thought that's where the director was more just pissed off with the whole issue.
I did see Zoe Kravitz bullshit. She doesn't want men to find her attractive. It's like, are you well, you're
really?
in the wrong
Given
goddamn business.
Given what she wore,
just accomplished that.
Dude, did you not see what she wore at the Met Gala? Of course, she can't be saying that.
I guess she did, like a stupid idiot. Oh my lord. No, here's my problem with it, Valiant. So much. I mean, yeah, I agree with you on the whole Pattinson thing. I've been saying that for a while, but I heard about one of the more recent screenings and what the story is. If it's true, I think people are just going to be like, "This is more of the fucking same. Why are we watching this?" Because from what I heard, it's basically Batman Begins redo.
Oh god.
With the Riddler.
Yep. Like I've heard it's pretty much the same tone, same kind of. It might as well be a Batman, like a Nolan Batman movie. From what I
forgot about this damn movie. You brought it up. Thanks a lot.
Well, that's because I don't really think the interest is there for it as much as people want to think there is.
No,
because the Dune trailer was outpacing it, and it had a month lead on the Dune trailer.
Hey, look, I like Paul Reubens, but I'm not going to cast Pee Wee Herman as Batman. Okay.
Actually, he'd make a pretty good Riddler.
You do that really good.
I know you are, but what am I?
But Buddy Russ does that too. I could never do the voice right.
Well, you got to get down here for this person. There you go. Here, okay, Francis.
But Tom, I don't want to do this.
He would make a good Riddler, though.
Yeah, he would.
Especially because you've seen Paul Reubens play serious parts before, haven't you? You've seen
he played
and...
Penguin's father.
Yeah, that's right. He played Penguin's father, and he'd make a good Penguin too, as far as that goes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, throw him in a fat suit. He'd be great.
Oh, I love Paul Reubens as an actor. He's an underappreciated
I like his Instagram.
Actor.
He's very funny. He's always got something quirky.
Well, I love him in like Buffy and shit.
Plus,
like
he's
that.
friends with Elvira. So
yeah, well, they're all in the Groundlings, right? Script.
I think so. Yeah.
She may have even been part of his original stage thing. I can't remember now. I'm trying to remember. I have the HBO special somewhere.
You think she
Cassandra
played
Peterson, the Elvira? No. I don't think.
No, she wasn't.
I don't think. No, I remember.
Not on the show, but on the original.
No,
HBO
I know what
special.
you're talking about. That when he did the stage thing and they televised it. I don't.
They did something together though at some point. What the fuck was
supposedly she dated Elvis and he told her to take singing lessons and she started going out with Tom Jones.
Now she's a lesbian. Go figure.
Yeah, but like Elvis apparently said, it's going to further your career. You really wanted her to go far. Hey, you know what? A woman like that, she could bewitch many a man.
Oh, that's right. He did play the father again on the TV show too, but I didn't really care. I fell out of that show. The Gotham show.
Yep.
I stayed with it as long as I could, and I'm like, yeah, this is just getting.
Gotham had a lot of great shit in it, but it had a lot of terrible shit in it too. It was a very weird show. It was very much a variation on a theme.
Yes.
Not the same universe as you're used to.
Well, and the problem you have with that is outside of like the Penguin, a lot of those characters, and maybe Catwoman, you really can't set up prior to Batman because the rest of them are results of Batman, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's why I like the way they did the Penguin in that show because it showed his gradual rise from being.
I love the Penguin in that.
Well, it goes beyond that. If the police can actually, defend the city from these supervillains without Batman, what's the point of Batman?
Bingo.
Well, there's that too on the other end of it.
That's the biggest part of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Paul Reubens and Mystery Men was great too. I mean, what's your
that
power?
Was so weird.
And Blow, of course. Let's not forget
Blow. He's great in. I can't feel my face.
Paul Reubens. Superpower is slinging goo 3 rows in front of him in the theater.
Yeah, that's true, but
Whatever.
Nah. All right, moving on.
I want to know if celebrities were all up in Studio 54 doing God knows what.
Oh, Lord.
Those are the stories I want to hear.
No.
And then I ain't even really, I'm sure there's plenty of fun stories. It's the stories I don't want to hear about.
Yeah.
I want to know who was in that orgy, sir.
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of people we don't want to hear about, especially when they were not of age.
Just 5,000 people in a pile with David Bowie and a throne on top.
You'd be surprised.
People have died for that information.
I'm sure Andy Warhol fucked just about everybody who came in the door.
Likely true.
Yeah. Coat check.
Allegedly.
No, that's not what that means here.
Oh, man.
Isn't there supposed to be some documentary coming out about Studio 54?
I don't know.
You mean after the Mike Myers movie?
Yeah. No, this is like more recent, like extremely recent.
You mean
that wasn't a horrible movie either?
No. I actually kind of enjoyed that movie. No, I actually
kind of
enjoyed that movie.
You enjoyed The Cat in the Hat.
No, the freaking Studio 54, the Mike Myers. No, Studio 54 with Mike Myers.
Yeah, that was a pretty decent movie. It was just.
Yeah, it was all right. Made everybody look nice and sleazy.
I was gonna say, I'm sure it was very far from the truth, but hey,
yeah.
That's why I want to see this documentary because I'm curious what's going to have a lot of the dirt in it.
Oh, Paul Reubens was Batmite in Brave and the Bold. I didn't know that.
Oh,
yeah, he was awesome as that.
Yeah, because that was a great Batmite. I always thought that was the guy from Princess Bride. He was like, inconceivable.
Oh, that guy.
No.
That's William Wallace. William Wallace.
William Wallace. I got to remember that guy's name. He's still alive, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he played Bertram on Family Guy. But that was still, even that's a dozen years.
Or Wallace Shawn, that's his name, not William.
Wallace Shawn.
William Wallace, that's fucking
Braveheart, dude.
I'm
not gonna say it. I'm like, let me see how long this will go. How many times can I say William Wallace before I have to bust that laugh?
I just accepted it because I figured maybe you named him after William Wallace. It's a good name. It's a strong name.
Yes, Paul Reubens did get arrested, but it wasn't nearly what they made it out to be. I'm not going to reiterate the whole story, but let's just say he wasn't doing anything anybody else wasn't doing in that theater.
Yeah, and again,
you want to go to the glory hole, okay?
That was 20 years ago before you had 25 years ago. That was way before we had Pornhub and private internet access.
Well, the worst of it was, and I think you and I script talked about this that one time.
Is it that he was wearing the gray suit?
Right after he got done shooting fucking Buffy and he went to visit his folks.
I thought you were about to say shooting something else, but go ahead.
No, and so he had the scraggly hair and the beard and shit. So his fucking mugshot is one of the worst mugshots in history.
Was so bad.
And it's like it looked.
It doesn't even look like him. You're
well,
right.
we had no context at that point, right? Like nobody.
That was actually a blessing for him. That mugshot was so unrecognizable that it was like it got out there and people just visually could not connect that to.
Yeah, they just figured it was Nick Nolte and moved on.
Probably right.
You guys keep picking on me. I don't get it. I ain't your friend, I ain't your buddy, and I ain't your partner.
Oh, God.
Nick Nolste's awesome.
Well, Tom, should we? You want to mention we're going to try to do a show tomorrow?
Yes, we are. Now's a good time to do that. Why not? As y'all know, Valiant Renegade and I love 4K. So we're going to do a show dedicated to 4K. And that's going to be all things 4K, like what it's all about, what's the upcoming releases, what's the more recent releases. We don't have a set kind of idea yet exactly what it's going to be all about, but we're going to start it tomorrow, by God. And it's going to start at 5 p.m. Central. I think it's going to be on the main channel, if I remember right. So maybe even Andre will join us.
Cool.
So there we go. I mean, we might even have other guests come in from time to time. I'm sure Robert Meyer Burnett and a few others will probably love to join. Who knows? So we'll see who can hop in with us.
As long as you guys decide what TV I'm buying, we're good.
Well, as I told you, you're going to want to talk to some gamers, man. So if there's gamers out there who have some really great recommendations for Jesse on the television.
See, that's the thing, because the whole thing with gaming and TVs is called input lag speed, which is simply when I hit X, how many milliseconds does it take for that action?
And I think that all has to do with like the refresh rate and stuff.
That's the refresh rate. Yeah, the cycle rate of the power supply they have in those TVs is going to dictate how fast you can refresh. So you're buying a TV for gaming or for like movie watching, or both?
Home theater
More for
/
gaming, probably.
Okay. Well, we can talk. I'll help you out with that one, Jesse.
Both.
Yeah.
There you go.
I got finished basement, and I got 100 inches diagonal to play with, so I want to get something diesel.
That's what she said.
Yeah. I just wanted to have a veg spot.
When I get that feeling, I won't say.
The other night, I was looking for a computer desk, get the hell out of the kitchen and down into my basement where it should be. And I couldn't find anything like I really liked, man. Yeah,
this is what I was thinking. This is what I got. Sailor Sonic says 120 hertz or better. So yeah.
Most of the ones these days, the better built 4K sets are going to be able to be capable of 120 hertz refresh rates. And the reason being, just as kind of we'll give a quick little plug for the show tomorrow. Television historically was broadcast at 30 frames a second. Hollywood films shot at 24 frames a second. The reason why that finally the technology has caught up and most TVs today are produced at 120 hertz. That's the cycle rate of the power supply. And that's because 30 and 24 are both equally divisible into 120. So now we don't have to do like we used to do with original DVDs, 3:2 pull down, where TVs had to invent frames of video to catch you up on the screen. So you should be good these days, Jesse, with pretty much any of those. But if you're doing more gaming,
there's one other thing I got to ask about.
Yeah,
the actual like my Vizio that I had before, I still got it, but I didn't hook it up yet. One of the reasons I bought it was because it not only did it have an incredibly low input lag speed, but it also had a separate video game low latency. Because it's like when you have all these enhancements on your games, God, does that look like shit?
Yeah, a lot of TVs
and it'll get you killed.
They can accommodate video games. Like if you're playing PS5 and Xbox and all that, they'll handle that well. But most screens that you're buying, if you want to do home theater with, if you're trying to do like high level PC gaming, it's very different. And that's why, a 4K monitor for you.
Well, I'm a PlayStation guy too. So,
well, we'll talk, but I mean, that's why, it costs like if you buy, you can buy a 60-inch 4K set for $1,500, but a high-end PC gaming monitor that's 30 inches or 35 or 39 inches costs $2,000 or $1,500.
Yeah, my buddy Sonny did that, and then he had compatibility issues, and he got pissed.
Yeah.
See, I don't believe in this PC master race. I think that my grandma could point and click, and she's dead. Plus, when they have crossplay, you can tell who the PC players are because they jump around and they move at all these weird angles, and it's just so jerky. It's just like, yeah, you're a PC guy. You're just tapping.
They're running PC, and they probably don't have a GPU, a graphics card to support what they're trying to do. That's probably it.
Really, because it makes them fucking unkillable.
Well, we did have a super chat here from Super Nate earlier. Sorry I didn't get to this till now. Says, I'm a bit behind. Well, so are we. So sorry about that. But in the first movie, there was Venom and Riot. Then there were two other symbiotes that got killed off before they had any hosts. So there really was only just 2 in the first movie. Yeah, okay. So it was a separate. I've only watched the movie once.
Yeah, I'm glad for that comment because we obviously couldn't remember.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm not against Mike's suggestion to have you watch them. I'd even pay you to watch them, so I'd pay for it anyway, just to hear what you have to say. And then we had a pooper sticker from Deranged Lunatic. I would expect no less from you, sir. Thank you so much, and we appreciate that. Was there anything else to talk about though, other than that, guys? Because I know Script's got to get going here soon, and
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a short show, but hey, it's always not. We don't always have to go 3 fucking hours. There's no rule that says that.
Quality over quantity. That is always what we do here.
Well, since we're losing you sooner than later here, Script, what you got going on that you want to plug?
Nothing. I'm busy with real world work, so I got nothing to plug.
I hear you.
You can try and catch me, I guess, Thursday right here on this channel. And I'll probably be joining Nina Infinity on her channel Sunday evening to wrap up the What If stuff that's going on there. So check those out.
Sweet. And then Valiant, what you got running?
Well, like I said, did a video yesterday morning talking about the box office weekend of Venom that we kind of discuss here today, so y'all can check that out. I go into a little bit more detail there. Going to try to have another one coming out talking about where I think it needs to go in terms of box office success to break even. And I still am putting together a little bit of a retrospective for the part 3 of the kind of understanding the movie theater box office financials. We're going to talk about some of the marketing and P&A stuff we talked about here tonight.
Pound that rule of 3, man. Pound that rule of 3. People just don't seem to understand it.
Yeah, it really is. And, things have gone on over time. Things have changed. They're still doing TV advertising, but as streaming and things like this becomes more popular, they have access to better data, but they're still spending more money.
If they spent $30 million already in just a little bit of a campaign they did for Bond over a year ago, that tells me they're spending a lot more than we probably think they are on advertising.
Well, let me put it this way. I'll give everybody kind of one kicker on the video. The Nun, the James Wan movie is part of the Conjuring series. Everybody remembers that? Okay, The Nun. The production budget on that film was about 22 to 25 million. You want to know what Deadline reported as the P&A marketing on that was?
Oh, I'm willing to bet it was 3 times that.
$90 million.
Yep. See, yep.
So this is my point, is that people have to get a grip on, what they're spending. And look, it was successful. The movie did almost 400 million worldwide. So it was very successful for them.
Well, I think Halloween's going to be another one like that too, because the movie only cost, I think it was 20 million to make, from what I read somewhere, something like that.
And they will spend probably $80 million
or more on that. Probably.
Yeah, they'll spend at least 80 million on that because, well, they tend to spend more on movies which are unknown. Like you take Marvel, for instance, they spent $80 million in P&A on Guardians of the Galaxy 2. When you come out with a movie like Shang-Chi, not to pick on it, but I mean, just to be fair, you come out with a movie like Shang-Chi, which is a totally unknown character. You have to spend more money to gear people up to get them to understand it. You didn't have to spend as much on a Guardians 2 because everybody knew at that point who that cast was. It became a very popular commodity. So when you have a movie like Halloween, you might not have to spend as much because people understand what that franchise is.
I think they will just because there's going to be pushing the Peacock thing, but I don't know. I've seen a lot of advertising already.
I got high hopes on Halloween because before the show I was just reading a short little thing, but it said that they wanted to add the niece character into this movie and they didn't because they felt like if they did too much fan service, they were going to get ripped apart.
I don't know. I heard the movie
by the fans, and they said that if they didn't do enough, they'd be ripped apart. But they felt like if they actually tried to shoehorn that role into there, it would have been too much and it wouldn't have fit, even though she's been in like 3 or 4 of the movies at this point. But hopefully later in the next one, they'll work it in somehow if they could figure it out.
I don't know. I didn't like the last one. I'm looking forward to this one, or at least I was until I started hearing some reviews from people who had seen it already. And yeah, it's getting some pretty horrible reviews.
Well, I'm mixed, Tom, because on one hand, I feel exactly like you because I really wish they would have picked up after 4 or 5. And have him get caught.
Well,
then.
like how you know Jason in and out.
away.
That's how I know Michael, right? So anyway, continue.
Yeah, it would have given him way more weight that way if he was arrested after all that stuff happened. And then you could eliminate like your H2O and your resurrection.
Honestly, I would have kept H2O. I'd have kept Halloween
I liked H2O as well, but they never went back and really explained all the druid shit.
They didn't have to. H2O totally negated everything else. I liked the trilogy of Halloween, Halloween 2, and H2O. If they wanted to do another one after that, I was fine with that.
And I would throw Halloween H2O in there too, because I don't see any reason why you can't carry over that. Did she die in the end of that one?
No, it was in the beginning of whatever.
Yeah, so they could have went straight from H2O to this.
They should have, and just got Doug what's his face up out of whatever the fuck he's doing, Josh Hartnett, instead of having to be a daughter, and just have Josh Hartnett having a daughter. That's all you had to do. It's been 20 years since then.
You know why they did it? So that they could mine all that stuff that's no longer there for future content.
Well, the big reason was because they brought back John Carpenter, and John Carpenter didn't like part 2. And he wanted them to basically make Mike, and this part I agree with. They wanted to make Mike Myers back into the babysitter killer. They didn't want any familial connection, which I'm fine with. But what they failed to do with this new movie was prove to me that was a reason why you did this, because you still have Jamie Lee Curtis all fucking acting like the same character, even though she has no familial connection with him. Right. And then you have this other doctor who shouldn't even fucking be there. And in the end, the logical point is this: turn Jamie Lee Curtis into Sarah Connor. You have a scene where she goes, Michael or whatever, and he just looks at her and just keeps on fucking walking. And in that moment, she realizes, oh, fuck, he don't give a shit about me. All he gives a shit about is babysitters. And she becomes the new Samuel Lewis. Why? Because she knows more about him than anybody else. And that's where she becomes the one crying. And they basically kind of do that to her, but they don't do it. It's like you have her coming into town screaming crazy like you used to have Loomis, right? Yes. That's her character now. And you have her be the badass one going after Mike Myers. They have part of it there. You're right. There's part of that movie I loved. But then the other half of it, I'm just like, why are we doing this? This makes no fucking sense. This is just calling back shit to a bunch of other movies. The daughter is kind of non-existent, and then the fucking granddaughter is the most annoying fucking character. Almost
the granddaughter almost doesn't need to be there. Otherwise, they need that placeholder granddaughter character.
And then you got this side story with this other babysitter and the little kid, and they're infinitely more entertaining. Like, that little kid is hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Like, that should have been the
little black kid, I felt like they threw some of that in. It's just like we need to throw younger people in to get the younger audience, and there was no other reason. They didn't give any. I agree with what you said on that. Like, it was just she was a bitch. She was a bitch, and she was annoying. Well,
she leaves that one dude to die.
Yeah.
After all he does is fucking hit on her and try kissing her or whatever, and she's like turns into a total cunt bag.
Yeah.
It's like the guy didn't do anything that bad. It's not like he grabbed you or something. It's like, fucking Christ.
Well, me too.
And that's where I felt the woke shit come in. But sorry, Valiant, go ahead.
No. That was fine. I agree with everything you're saying. I was going to say before I forget again, because I heard you say this the other day on, maybe it was yesterday's show. I share your sentiments with, and this is probably going to ignite some asses in the chat. I share your sentiments with Halloween 3 because, like you, as a matter of fact, that was the first Halloween movie I ever saw as a kid.
Really?
Yeah. So, Season of the Witch, and I kind of knew who Michael Myers was, and I had probably I'd seen some of the first Halloween movie by that point. I don't think I'd ever sat through the whole thing. The first horror movie I ever saw as a kid, I very distinctly remember I was about 5 or 6 years old, and I saw The Fog.
Oh, yeah.
And I fell in love with John Carpenter at that point, and I loved The Fog. It's still my most watched.
Underrated John Carpenter film.
Yeah, it is still my most watched horror movie. I mean, I bought the UK version of the 4K box set with The Fog. Yep, Fog, Prince of Darkness, all that stuff. I mean, look, my kids love, my son, Renegade Jr., can quote They Live, okay, from start to finish.
I mean, this kick ass and chew bubblegum.
Yeah, recently they put those They Live faces on top of just normal news reports from, now, and it's totally just like watching that movie. It's scary as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I loved everything about it, and you know, even the third one that wasn't really Halloween or so, there's a special place out there for that. If you take the title Halloween off of it,
then it's a movie. Yes,
it's still a fun movie with the masks that the kids put on their faces, and you know,
oh, it's a great Halloween story.
Oh,
And
yeah,
Tommy
yeah.
Lee Wallace still wishes they would have just released it as John Carpenter Presents Season of the Witch.
See,
Exactly.
I would prefer that because I was already a Jason.
And he brought
nut
Tom
at that
Atkins
point.
into that movie, you know, from The Fog.
Stop it! Stop it! Oh, I love that. Sorry, I know there's a few people who hate that movie, but yeah.
Well, on its own, it's fine. But it's like I was already a Jason nut at that point because I'd already seen all of those. So I was going back and watching the Halloween movies in order. And by the time I got to part 3, I wanted to see the fucking man, the star of the picture, come and fucking slash and fucking kids, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's the point. And it was a movie about masks possessing people. And I was like, all right. That's not
really
even.
so much
That's
possessing.
not even. It's
They just
like
kill your ass.
And what's his name?
It's the thing that
God,
it was
always-
a slasher series, and then they made it not a slasher series.
No,
And-
that's
and-
understandable.
What was so perfect was
that's
I
what it
cannot
really
ever
bothered me.
remember the actor's name, but the guy who ran the
Patrick
mask company-
O'Hurley?
yes, from RoboCop. I mean that's it. Yeah,
Good shooting, son.
So fucking perfect. He was the ultimate like corporate old man badass of the 80s. There was just so much good stuff in that movie. Again, I know it's weird because it's got Halloween as the title, but shit, it was still fun.
I like it. And
Yeah.
Salty Nerd Podcast likes me. Well, thank you so much for the shout out. I don't know if that's which one of the crew that is, but we got to get you guys on here proper, all you guys, one of these nights. Just have you all on. It'd be fun. So thank you so much for that. We appreciate it. And Xenobit says, to quote Twilight Zone, want to see something scary? Yeah, I mean, and that's what I loved about that. And I think they were would have probably been, as much as I love Halloween 2, I don't, if that would have been Halloween 2 instead of another Michael Myers story, I don't think people would have had a problem. And that's usually the case. So, but yeah. And then Deranged Lunatic says, what's wrong with Mike Myers? I like Austin Powers. Nothing's wrong with Austin Powers.
No, nothing.
Well, I didn't care for the third movie as much. But, yeah.
No, me neither. I'm sorry, but
It peaked with 2.
Beyonce Knowles, she can't act.
Thank you. Another person. I'm like, God, why?
Dude,
Austin Powers 3, the search for the last bit of money.
She was distractingly bad.
Well, not just
I know
that.
it was the girl's first movie.
She's foxy,
Whatever.
Cleopatra. No, not just that. It was like every one of the jokes was like it was like Austin Powers' greatest hits. Like every one of the jokes was a recycled joke from the first 2 movies.
Oh God, Xenobit's got that Playboy. Fucking
God damn it!
This is a scared thing he saw. Says Xenobit.
That's mean, dude.
Zoom in.
It's just mean.
Then Ben Wade, of course, Silver Shamrock.
Shamrock. Yeah.
You'll never
Oh, my
hear
God.
that song the same way again. So with that, I think we're going to get out of here. Jesse, what else you got coming up? I'm assuming you're going to play some video games tonight.
Yeah, I'm being lazy. I'm just going to do some gaming.
All right. There you go. So check that out.
Panels, not as much as I should.
Did you have anything else you wanted to plug, Valiant? I know we kind of jumped over here. So
No. We bouncing around. I'm good.
All
It's
right.
good to see everybody tonight. Thanks to the chat. Thanks to our glorious
chat.
wrenches out there.
I'd like to plug the Discord real quick. If anybody's not in the Discord,
Yeah.
the entire channel umbrella is in there. Eventually, I'd like to get every channel that's associated in any way with Midnight's Edge in there as a list.
There
That
we
would
go.
be nice.
All right.
And I'll just plug that real quick.
That's all your That's all you, Jesse. I don't know Discord. So you deal in Discord, you're dealing with Jesse. Here's your new sheriff in town. So with that, I'm gonna get us out of here with I don't know, let's do this.
Boy, that escalated quickly.